Yay!
I have to say, I've done some live streams, but for some reason, I'm like way more nervous right now than I have been for any of the other ones. Maybe it's because my face is like right here, or maybe it's because I'm got a guest for the first time and I want to make it good for not just for me, but for you too. So
Aw.
fingers
Well, I'm
crossed.
glad to be here. I've never done a live, so this is why I'm nervous too.
Yeah, it's kind of nerve wracking, especially with the technology. You never know when you're going to get it right. I feel like I make mistakes a lot with the technology, but that's okay. We'll just get right into it. So, as most of you I'm sure know, I'm Julie Johnson of the Pavilion Mixed Media Art Tutorials. I YouTube just rolled out this feature where I can have guests join me for live streams without getting like super crazy technical about it, which is a blessing for me. So I wanted to take advantage of that. And I've invited my first guest. This is Leslie Fisher. She's from Indiana. We met, gosh, it's been about a year and a half ago, huh? That
Yes.
Leslie came to Durham, North Carolina, and I live in Raleigh. And she reached out and was like, "I'd love to meet you." And I was like super excited. I'm like, "Of course, I would love to meet another Encaustic artist." And we had a really great chat, met for breakfast, and yeah, we've been kind of friends, keeping tabs on each other ever since. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So how's it going, Leslie?
Not too bad. How's it going on your end? Well,
Oh,
I hope.
same old, same old. Still trying to sell the house. Still trying to do art. Still trying to raise my kids. And trying to
Keep
do
it
all
all
three at the
going,
same
right?
time is a little tricky, but we're working on it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we met in the painting with fire class, I believe, on the online painting
Oh
with
yeah, that's
fire.
right. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
kind of how we connected.
That class is amazing.
It was
Yeah,
very amazing.
if you're at all interested in caustic painting, taking the painting with fire class is a great way to learn because they
Extremely worth the investment.
yeah, absolutely. It's it's over a year, and you can go back and purchase the previous years if you want to, I believe. And I can try to put a link in the description after the live stream is over and I go back and update everything. Um, but yeah, it's a year-long class, and they have like every week there's a new teacher that teaches you a new technique, and you get all kinds of great, great instruction with different supplies and different tools and tips for your business and all kinds of stuff. It's amazing.
Very much so. I would agree. I learned a lot.
Yeah, is that how you got started with encaustic painting?
Yeah, so I kind of started painting after kind of going through some family trauma and um, didn't really know anything about abstract painting and stumbled into some abstract painters online and was very tickled with just the amount of people out there on YouTube that were willing to do some kind of tutorials and show a few things into what they're thinking and how they're putting pieces together. And it didn't cost me anything to watch those, and I learned a lot. And I kind of stumbled across oil and cold wax artists. And from there, as I kind of continued to research, I stumbled across some artwork that I just wasn't sure what it was from seeing the pictures, which I think a lot of people could say that's their experience as well when it comes to encaustic. It's really hard to kind of put your finger on what it is you're looking at. But I was really drawn to it, and the thought of having a heated palette and a blowtorch and all of the things that you need was really scary to me. Didn't understand why anybody would ever want to do that, but eventually I kind of dove into it, and I'm head over heels in love with the medium. So yeah, that's where I am today. I started painting in 20, basically 2020, but I took the class in 2021. That's when I really was introduced to encaustic. So haven't been at it very long.
Yeah. Hey, that's awesome. Did you do any other kinds of art before you started with encaustic, or is this like your first kind of dive into creating
I
different art?
mean, I really didn't do anything creatively in the art world ever. Like I said, when I first started, I kind of stumbled into the oil and cold wax and really loved I guess just the textures of that and the ability to not have to use a paintbrush. And a lot of oil and cold wax artists use kitchen tools and all kinds of different straight edges to apply their paint onto their substrates. And I did that for about a year, I would say, until I stumbled into the encaustic, and um, I haven't gone back to it much. I haven't ever had any art classes. My first art class was painting with fire, 2021. So that's the first art class I ever took. Um, and so, yeah, I haven't really delved into the other mediums a whole lot. So,
So what was it about Encaustic that just drew you in as opposed to anything else? Because I'm assuming that you saw other stuff when you were scrolling around on YouTube and things.
I did see a lot of other things. I think the thing that really drew me in was the luminosity of it, if that's the right word. Just um, the fact that there were so many layers that you could actually see through them, that was definitely a big draw. Um, I think the versatility of it, how, people are sculpting with it and people are painting realistic, realism landscapes and, you know, portraits and things that you would think you were looking at an oil painting or, but it's all wax. And the talent of the artists out there just blows me away. um, but I'm definitely drawn towards the abstract end of things. I'm not really a talented drawer at all. I can't really, yeah, I can't really draw
Same way.
things that, yeah, that look like anything that they're supposed to. So the abstract world definitely is where my heart is. And there's just something about kind of mixing colors on whatever palette, like whatever medium and whatever palette, just kind of mixing those things up on the substrate that I'm working on. I love that. I love that. So,
So I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat while we're talking. And I mean, we did get a hello from Carolyn Weaver. So
hi,
hi, Carolyn.
Carolyn.
Sorry
I'm
we
so
didn't say
glad
hi
you're
back
here.
sooner. But I'm gonna say just real quick, I'm not sure exactly how it works. I had to click on the chat thing on my phone before Carolyn's message actually showed up. Like it didn't automatically pop
Aha.
up. So if as we continue talking, somebody else comments, we may or may not see it. We'll see. A few more live streams later, and I may become more of a pro at this. But for right now, I'm still kind of learning. So I apologize if
Sure.
we miss any messages. But so what are you working on right now, Leslie? Can you show us anything that's on
Um,
your table, or
well, I
not to put
definitely
you on the
have.
spot? But
No, I definitely, I've kind of been in the world. For anybody that's been following me on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, I've kind of been in this world of plaster and concrete and tar, which all sounded absolutely, otherworldly when I first saw other people were working with them. And, again, had that thought of why would you ever want to, those sound very hard to work with and complicated. But now that I've kind of started playing around with those mediums or those textures, oh my goodness, I can't stop doing it now. But yeah, I have been working on, well, one of the things I've done recently was I have these boards, and these are some finished pieces that I did. They're like 360-degree pieces. And I wasn't sure how, I had in mind to make a base or come up with a base for mounting them. So my husband and helped me with some mortar, and we poured these. It's mortar. I don't know what the difference between that is and concrete, but we poured them into some silicone molds and let it set up. And I put the nail in there and set that nail into the concrete, and then we put it onto the piece of art so that it holds it on there. So it's pretty sturdy and holds them up really nice. But I love the look of them, and of course, it's given me some ideas to go some other directions. But I have been all over the plaster and concrete, and I'm taking several classes from Crystal Marie from Canary Rising. She's been doing a lot of online classes lately, and I've started taking a few classes from her. And so, yeah, I'm delving into preparing all kinds of. This is just a little wood. Actually, I found these somewhere that were for like 50 cents. These little
Nice.
wood substrates, yeah. So I painted it all up with chalk paint and put some plaster on there and did some paper. And then I'll, color them up in all kinds of different directions. It's another one. And then
Awesome.
I'll be able to layer the encaustic over those and
Now,
do
do
some
you
other
set the
treatments to them.
paper? Do you set the paper right into the plaster and let it dry?
I did use a little bit of medium. I used some acrylic medium under this some of the paper, but you can set it right into the plaster or the drywall compound. And then some of these, I don't know how well you could see it. I actually put a little plaster over the top of the paper.
Okay, yeah, I can see.
So I've kind of done it both ways, where I set the paper right into it, or fabric is another thing you can push right into the plaster or the drywall compound, and you can push all that stuff right in there, and then once it sets up, it is in there.
Awesome. No, those are
Yeah.
beautiful. I
Thanks.
have to say I really am drawn to your style, like the neutral colors and the marks that you put everywhere, and especially like the metal and the way you kind of bring it off of the substrate to kind of make it more three-dimensional, like nails sticking out and I see like threads and stuff kind of woven
Yes.
around in there on top. Like, so what are you just kind of playing around, or do you have like a specific meaning that you're trying to put into your pieces, or how does
I
that work?
I think part of it is definitely I'm just experimenting with the different things that I have in front of me. Um, I definitely feel like there is a lot of life in my pieces. I think I think there's something to be said for finding peace in the midst of chaos. I feel like, especially in the last 3, 4, 5 years, our world has been a pretty chaotic and uncertain place. And it could be really easy to get overwhelmed by a lot of those things. And so being able to find something that brings you peace and serenity and calm. So I kind of enjoy some of my pieces where when you look at them from a distance, it seems like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on in there. But yet, when you really get to looking at how the colors are talking to one another and how there's kind of hard, permanent things, and then there's the soft threads or the soft fabrics. There's these juxtapositions, if you will, of opposites that are really kind of holding each other in balance. And so I kind of feel like that's a lot of what my pieces are about. Having gone through several of those kinds of things in my own personal life, trying to find a peace and a rest in a time when things haven't been very peaceful or restful, has been challenging sometimes. So I kind of pour it into my pieces.
Awesome. No, that's great. So, do you have a favorite tool or a favorite supply, or like your plaster or anything like that you enjoy working with the most?
I think I definitely, a couple of the things that I'm really loving. I love to do mark making. Again, that wasn't anything I really knew anything about, but as I've been on this journey, I've kind of really been learning from other artists that there's really no wrong mark. And there's a lot of freedom in knowing that, if you do something and it doesn't go the way that you thought it was going to go, or it was one of the things, actually, honestly, Angeli, that drew me to your channel in the beginning. I would love to watch you, and you would be like, oh, well, that kind of didn't do what I wanted it to do, but we're just going to kind of keep going with it. Or, um, I don't know, that was a new concept to me in a lot of ways. And so I got really drawn to mark making. I think, to be honest, the two of my favorite tools are a graphite pencil and a charcoal pencil. I love making these thin lines. You can kind of see them. I have them in almost all of my pieces. Um, and I don't really have any rhyme or reason about how I do it. I just kind of like to put it on whatever. Usually it goes in a base layer, and I will draw the lines through. And a lot of my encaustic pieces, if you really stop and look at them all the way, often there's at least a section that you can see all the way back to my base layer, and you'll usually find marks from my pencil or my charcoal. So these are two of my early stage pieces. Um, and then as I go forward, the other thing that I really love to do is the incising. So I have all kinds of things. I have these kind of, scouring pads. I have these brushes that you can do marks with. Um, I have some, I don't know, one of my favorite things is a pizza cutter. I went to the dollar store and got a pizza cutter for $1. It makes the most wonderful thin lines, and you can drive it any way you want. So you can do straight and curvy and square if you want to, because you can drive that pizza cutter. You can stop it and turn it on a dime. So I love using a pizza cutter to make lines, and then I will fill that incising up with just about anything, from tar to pan pastels to oil paint, um, all kinds of different things that you can put into all of the different marks that you make. So I would say mark making is my favorite, and I have a lot of tools that I love to use to do that. So those would be a couple of my
Awesome.
favorites.
Yeah. Well, I just love finding ways to incorporate different things, like different tools, and because like a dollar store pizza cutter is going to be crap on pizza. Like, let's be
Yeah,
honest,
right.
it's not going to cut pizza very well. But when you use it in your art, I bet it cuts through the wax just beautifully, right?
Oh, it's
Way to
so
do it.
wonderful.
That's
Yeah,
so
and
cool.
it cleans up really nice. And it's what's nice is that because it's round, it doesn't matter if you're working on a small substrate or a very large one, it just keeps going. So, like where a ruler, if you're trying to do a straight line, you run out of the ruler, but the pizza cutter can just keep going. So it's a continuous line that you can put through your stuff. So pizza cutter, those are a nice tip, good tip to have around
That
on
is a great
hand.
tip. I definitely want to head to the dollar store and see what I can pick up. That's another reason why I love talking to artists and seeing other channels and their Instagrams and social media, because they usually will put tips like that in there. And to be honest, I never went to the dollar store before I started doing that. And I go there now and I just walk the aisle sometimes and I'm like, what could I use? What could I use?
Yeah.
And I find like the foil bread pans there that I can put my
Yep.
medium in. I find like home decor stuff that I'm like, oh, I can cut that up or use that, like, get rid of the some of the stuff on the top of it, but then that might be a really good substrate to use. Like there's all kinds of stuff that you can use. And Yeah, it's just encaustic. It's you can do assemblage. I mean, you've been doing stuff like that, like these
Yeah.
3D pieces that incorporate not just the the traditional, front of the painting, but all the sides, right?
Yeah.
And you can put it any way. And there's just so much that you can do with encaustic. And I think that that's true for like pretty much every other art medium out there, like oil painting or acrylic. But I feel like it's doubly true for encaustic, that you
Yeah.
can just
Well,
take it
it seems like
in
it's
any
so much
direction.
more of a forgiving medium because
Mhm.
I had a piece I was working on camera the other day, and so many artists take the white paint and they like put the little white sprinkles, you sprinkle it with your white paint, and it gives, and I did that. This white encaustic paint that I have at the moment, it's not holding up super well. Like any kind of heat whatsoever, it just spreads like crazy. I'm not sure what I've done wrong because I made it, but I put it on there and I went to give it the light fuse, and it just spread everywhere, and I'm like, ah. But it was no big deal. I just took the scraper, scraped it back off, and off I went. So again, I feel like it gives you a lot more freedom to take chances than I think maybe some of the other mediums that are out there. Acrylic dries so fast, and the oil paint kind of dries so slow, and if you kind of get your oil paint layered in the wrong way, sometimes it's hard to rebound from that. But I don't know, the encaustic just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Um, so I really love it for that reason.
Yeah, encaustic is great. I did the exact same thing when I was experimenting with doing like kind of a galaxy type of look. And
I
I had,
remember that.
yeah, with shellac and fusing the different colors of medium together to try to make it kind of spacey. And I tried to use like splatters of white wax to replicate the stars, and it was the same thing. Like I fused it, and it started spreading, and it looked like the whole surface had turned moldy. I was like, oh, this is bad.
At
So,
first
but
you panic and then
I
you go,
later
nope,
did it.
nope, we
Yeah,
can
yeah,
work with that.
yeah. I later did it with India ink, and that worked much better because
Oh, I
India ink
bet.
works with Encaustic, but it doesn't spread. Like,
That's a good idea.
you have to be careful, like if you're putting it under another layer of wax, that you because the heat and the bristles of your brush, if they're too coarse and if you're too rough with it, you can take some of it off. But it's not going to spread or splatter or anything. I usually just kind of like dip my brush a little bit like this, and then
Yeah,
I don't have any problems encasing it in another layer of wax. It's
it
perfect for
stays
that.
put a little better.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's see. What other questions do I have for you? Oh, here's one. Here's one that I struggle with, or at least I used to. I don't as much anymore, but there's still like when I try something new or yeah, like new tech, like I just get so scared and branching out and trying something new, almost like I I almost feel like an imposter. Like I have no business trying this. Do you ever struggle with like fears like that?
Yes, yes. I struggle. I really felt strongly to start my YouTube channel, and I didn't have a clue about what I was doing. Never done anything like that before, and and also there's times that I kind of feel like I've not. I don't have an art background. I don't have art training. I haven't been to school for it. So there's times that I feel very much doubtful, like who am I to be able to explain to anyone how to do anything? Um, but at the same time, I think it could kind of be a bittersweet thing because I don't have all of that training. It also, I do sometimes take risks that maybe a trained person wouldn't take because maybe they know better and I haven't learned that yet. So I kind of jump into things going, yeah, I could do it that way. And oh, no, no, I can't. Or sometimes I'm like, oh, yeah, well, I put the encaustic on the glass. I kind of came up with a way to do encaustic on the glass vases. And, um, I think I definitely got feedback from several artists that were kind of like, you're using glass as a substrate for encaustic. Like, how is that possible? Um, but I glued paper to it. I glued paper to it because encaustic goes right to paper. So it opened up a whole new world. And now I walk through a flea market and I look at all of these things going, well, how can I put encaustic on that? I walk around my world now going, how can I put wax on that? How can I make wax stay on that surface? What tricks could I use? Kind of the same with the rusty items. When I first started, I was using wire and drilling holes in my substrate and putting wire to hold my metal on because the wax alone often it's not going to absorb into that. So depending on how heavy the piece of metal is, it's not going to stay on the wax. But I didn't want to wire everything on to all of my pieces. And that's kind of how I stumbled into the plaster and the concrete because I can embed my metal into those things and then put the wax on top of that. And it's a great way to build those rusty metal bits and bobs into my artwork.
Yeah.
So it was a great way to go about doing that.
Yeah, I have to say, the rusty like metal pieces that you add to your work are like my favorite part. So
Yay!
I'm a big fan of steampunk and like vintage stuff, and yeah, I just love seeing that. So how do you have like a stash of metal pieces that you choose
I
from?
have
How
a
do you
big
build that up?
stash. Yes, it started off. I was working part-time at a facility with a lot of retirees, and when I first kind of started getting interested in the rusty metal, I kind of thought these guys, they're all retired, and I know some of them have had workshops in the past, and I wonder if they have any kind of rusty nails. Like the first thing I was looking for was rusty nails. So I kind of put word out to them and said, "Hey, do any of you guys have any coffee cans full of rusty nails, that you don't want?" And they were like, "Are you kidding me?" And I said, "Well, I would love to take them off your hands if you don't want them." So I had two of them come in with some pretty large stashes of just, rusty nails. Well, then we also have a flea market in our town. and I started going in there a lot more often. And I will look. The gal that owns the place goes to auctions and stuff, and so they a lot of times they'll just buy the toolbox as is or whatever. Then they go through it and they pull all of the stuff out, and it's often old tools that have just been sitting around, or old, washers or nuts, or screws and nails and things, and they'll put them in bags and buckets. And I could go in and get a bag of them for $5, or sometimes she'd have Ziploc bags for $5 of just random various rusty old metal things. So initially, I kind of bought a few things, and then one of my friends found out that I was doing it, and she's come to find out, she had a stash of stuff at her house from they had a burn pile where they burned things,
Mm.
and I stumbled across those, and I have gone out scavenging through her through her burn pile, and I have come home with a lot of stuff. So at this point, I think my husband would be happy if I didn't bring home any more rusty, nasty, rusty things at the moment. But and I have had my tetanus shot. I did go check on that, so
Okay,
a
that's
lot of
good.
people were concerned.
That was my next question. Do you have, so this might be kind of random. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, but what's the coolest thing that you found at
Oh,
one of those flea markets, like kind of rusty, weird things?
I have these. So where I live, we have some in our general area. We have some fairly large Amish communities. So we have a lot of. I have like these rusty wrenches that have a square on them, or I have rusty cans. I have rusty springs from a bed, like a box spring. They're all coily. I was trying to think if I had one on one of these pieces, but well, that's not exactly one. I have some rusty springs, and I would say these tools from the Amish farms are probably some of the coolest things because they're just not like anything that you see typically.
Mm,
But they're
cool.
heavy, so I haven't quite sorted out how to work them into something just yet. I'm still working pretty small, so I haven't gone big yet, and I feel like they're kind of bigger and they need a bigger substrate. So
Got it. Got it. Yep, that's a challenge, right? Figuring out how
yeah.
to do something. I've been working on. Had an idea for, because one of the things that I've struggled with, as because I've been doing Encaustic for about 11 years now, and mixed media a little bit before that, and kind of together, and I've been experimenting pretty much that whole time with different techniques and different styles and things, and I knew, like, pretty close to the time that I knew I wanted to become more professional and like a real, not just a hobbyist, but like try to be as professional of an artist as I could. I knew that I was going to need like a cohesive line, like a cohesive style, but I didn't know how to do it. And I didn't really want to do it. Like I get, I see a new technique and I'm like, I want to try all of the things. I want to like
Yep.
make all of the things and figure out
Yep.
how this person is doing that and how this person is doing that. And so but recently I've had some ideas and I've been feeling that need, and I've actually been wanting to kind of settle down and come with a cohesive line of work. And so I've been the idea that I've had the is kind of would incorporate a bunch of the different techniques and styles, but into one piece, like with kind of geometric, like more careful, more professional, like shapes. But it's been a real challenge. And honestly, I can't remember where I was going with this.
You wanted to try a
Oh,
cohesive body?
yeah. Talking about the challenge, I think, the challenge of that art presents you with, right? That it's one of the things that I love about creating and doing artwork so much is that it challenges you to kind of evolve and to become better. I think that's one of the things that I love about it is that you're faced with that fear to begin with, that kind of imposter syndrome, um, of I'm not good enough. Why should I? Why would anybody care about what I'm doing? Um, I don't know enough. The fear that you're not going to be able to do it. But then you start working and you keep working and you be a little more consistent with it, you start to change, and you meet that challenge, and then you kind of are able to you're lifting yourself, and then you can move on to the next challenge. And I feel like I've come up to this new challenge where this new line is like the way I want to do it is presenting me with challenges that I've never faced before, and I'm having a hard time solving these problems. Um, but it's I think even a few years ago I would have been too afraid to like keep going with it. I would have like moved on to something else, like something a little easier. But I think I'm ready to kind of uh, face that challenge and figure this out. Like there's got to be a way I can do this
Right.
that'll
I'm
that'll be, it'll be challenging, and it might take a lot of time for me to figure out how to do it, and to create each piece once I figure it out. But I'm pretty sure I can do it. It's just gonna take some, and it's really exciting to like feel that you're ready for something like a challenge like that. I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes any sense at all, or if I'm just rambling, but
No, it makes sense. I get it. It's interesting because, I think in our artwork, it's so personal. It's very intimate. And I don't even think I realize sometimes when I'm even creating a piece, the intimacy of creating the piece. But it's interesting to me because some of the early pieces that I did, like my mom has some in her house and my sisters, and every so often, I kind of forget that they're there, and I walk into their house and I'll see this piece on the wall, and it's almost like when I see it I instantly go, oh, I remember you, like, oh my goodness, like you really were something special, and how could I have forgotten that? And I don't know, I look at it and I go, that's kind of a little piece of me in their house. And you're right, it's kind of interesting to kind of to think, well, who would want a little piece of me in their house? Like, I don't know. It's an odd thing, but I really love it. I really love the medium. I really love the different things you can do with it. Um, and like you said, the challenges that it creates, and then when it does come together, it's just, you kind of want to go, oh, it's
yeah,
just great. It's the
it's
best
it's
feeling.
yeah, it is. It is the best feeling. I love it so much.
Yeah.
So I know that you've talked about before, like, and I we talked about this a little bit before. We'll just do this one last question and then we'll end. But because I know it's probably getting late. People got stuff to do. But um, one of the things that I was curious about is we talked about like your art and what the things that you put into it, and kind of playing around and figuring things out. But do you have like a specific meaning in mind when you do your mark making, or like any kind of symbolism or meaning that you put into your art? That And you don't have to answer this in depth if you, I know it's kind of a personal question, like what specific meaning and symbolism do you put into your artwork? But
So I think, I'm a person of faith. I am a Christian, and I think that to the best of my ability, I'm trying to represent, what that means to me in my work. I often will have scripture in there. Sometimes you can see it, and sometimes you can't. But I think that that is a lot about how faith works, and how having faith in Christ or whatnot works. Sometimes you kind of know that He's there and that you're being supported, and sometimes you don't. But He's still there, and He's still supporting you. And um, so I kind of feel like some of the marks that I'm making, and some of the unity, again, there's sometimes when I look at my own pieces, I go, I think, oh, people are going to think that's so busy, or they're going to think there's so much going on in there. And there is, but there's also a unity to it, and there's also a freedom in it, and there's also a peace that comes when you're looking at it, I think. And I've been told that by a lot of people who have spent a little time with some of my pieces. um so I guess when I'm making the marks, um it's kind of that, you know Christ came and left his mark on the world, really, left his mark on us, and left his mark on the world. And so I feel like a lot of times when I'm doing that, it's that same, it's expressing this freedom that he gives us, and the freedom that there's no wrong mark. And sometimes the marks get covered up, and sometimes they don't, and sometimes you work around them, and sometimes sometimes I put a mark down on my original layer and it gets covered up, and I'll find myself even on the top layer redoing it, but maybe in a different way, or somehow bringing that to the surface. um, so yeah, I would say that there's a lot of just faith and peace and freedom that I hope that people will find when they look at my stuff, or spend some time with it. I have a lot to look at in my pieces. There's no doubt about that.
No, I love
I
that.
often have a
That's
lot going on.
I love that, that art gives you such an opportunity to kind of,
Express
add
the
that
unseen. I
meaning.
guess express the unseen is a good way to say it.
Yeah, that is a good way. And
Yeah.
and yeah, I've done the same thing with scripture, but also like text in general, like book pages
Yeah.
and things, like having words and things underneath, but then having it covered up and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, there's such an opportunity to kind of share your experiences, share your testimony, share so many different things within your artwork, and people may see it and people may not, and people may see their own experiences in it,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's one of the beautiful things too. Like it's creating with our hands. It's the challenge of creating what you see in your mind, learning the rules of the medium, and figuring out how everything works. But then also like you said, putting a piece of yourself into it,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of like breathing that life into it, I guess.
Yes,
I hope that
exactly.
doesn't sound too out there,
No, not at all.
but art is such
Well,
an
and, we
opportunity for
think we
that.
can control. That's the thing. We think so much that we can control so much of the medium, just like we think we can control so many things that are going on around us. And from personal experience that controlling wax. Um, you know, I don't know. Is that really happening? I don't know. I'm not so sure that I'm controlling it. I think I am sometimes, but oftentimes I'm just working with it. It's a team effort.
No, that's
So
great.
very interesting.
Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight,
I'm
Leslie.
so glad you
It's been such
invited
a fun
me.
chat.
Yes, yes, it's been really, really fun.
Yeah, I hope that this was fun for everybody watching. We've had a few people um, join us for the live stream, and I hope that anybody watching after the fact gets a lot out of it. And if you have any questions, pop them in the comments. I haven't put Leslie's information in the description yet, but I'll update you with her YouTube channel and her Instagram. You have a website too, right, Leslie?
I do. It's ldfdesigns .com.
Okay.
I think I'm
So,
.com now. I'm questioning, but no, I think I am.
okay.
I should know that.
So yeah, and Leslie's also on Facebook too.
Yep,
Do you
yep.
have a professional
Facebook as
Facebook
well.
or just your personal
I have
Facebook?
LDF Designs on Facebook.
Okay,
Yep, LDF
that's what
Designs
I
on
thought.
Facebook. So
I always
usually you
second
can
guess
find me under
myself.
that.
So I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm so afraid to say anything wrong that I'm like, oh crap, I just said she has a Facebook. Does she have a Facebook? I'm
yeah.
pretty sure
No,
she
I
does.
do.
Okay,
I
okay.
do. My
So
Instagram probably
I'm
gets
gonna
a
get
little more
all that
traffic.
from you. I'm gonna get all that
Okay,
from you and put it in the description. I should have done that before,
perfect.
but I'll do it now and update it so that people can find you and find your artwork. She's got some amazing stuff, and she posts quite a few
Oh, thank
videos.
you.
So she does she talks through her videos too. So she'll give you a lot of tips and some great insights into how she creates and the techniques behind them. So um, thanks
Thank
for watching.
you.
Thanks for joining me,
Yes,
Leslie.
yes.
We'll see you guys later.
We'll be in touch.
Yep.
Thank you so
Sounds great.
much.
Yep. Have a great night.
Bye bye.